The galaxy was a vast and merciless place, full of warring empires, alliances of convenience, and civilizations that had risen and fallen like sparks in the night. Yet amid this chaos, one name was whispered across planets and star systems with equal parts reverence and fear: Princess Aelyra of Varith. Aelyra was no ordinary royal. She was heir to the Varithan Dominion, a civilization whose mastery of biotechnology and psionics made them both feared and desired. Entire systems bent knee to her people's fleets, and countless suitors, alien kings, warlords, magnates, offered wealth and power for her hand. She was the prize of the galaxy. Everyone wanted her. But Aelyra had never wanted them back. The human encounter. On the outer rim of the known galaxy, far from Varitha's glittering palaces, a war had raged between the Dominion and a coalition of rival species. Aelyra was sent to oversee peace negotiations, an act of diplomacy more than necessity, for few could defy the will of her empire. It was there, in a neutral station orbiting the barren moon of Dravis, that she saw him for the first time. The human. He was not a general, nor a diplomat of renown. Merely a liaison officer, assigned by Earth's fledgling stellar confederacy to observe and ensure the peace talks held some semblance of fairness. His name was Ethan Cole. Aelyra had expected little from him. Humanity was still considered young in the galactic stage, awkwardly finding its footing among older and stronger civilizations. Yet there was something about Ethan that drew her eyes whenever he spoke. He did not posture like the alien monarchs. He did not fawn or grovel, as many did in her presence. He was calm, almost ordinary, yet his words carried sincerity, as though he valued honesty more than victory. And when his gaze met hers across the polished obsidian table of the council chamber, Aelyra felt something stir in her chest that no psionic bond nor genetic pairing ritual had ever given her. The pull of the ordinary. Days passed, and negotiations dragged on. Aelyra grew weary of the endless games of power and deceit. Yet each evening, she found herself drifting toward the human officer, inventing reasons to speak with him. She asked about Earth, about its oceans, its forests, its people who still looked to the stars with wonder rather than conquest. Ethan spoke of small things. His sister who painted city murals, his love for hiking through mountains untouched by industry, the simple taste of earth-grown fruit that could never be replicated in nutrient vats. These were not tales of conquest or empire. They were glimpses of life unburdened by ambition. And for Aelyra, whose every breath had been measured, whose every step had been orchestrated since birth, it was intoxicating. But with each passing day, the eyes of the galaxy pressed harder upon her. Suitors renewed their offers. Allies demanded her favor. Even her own advisors reminded her of duty, lineage, and obligation. She was told again and again that her choice could shift the fate of empires. And all the while, she thought only of the human who looked at her not as a prize, but simply as her. The threat. The fragile peace nearly shattered on the fifth day. A rogue fleet of the Car Dominion, rivals who had long despised Varith, made a surprise assault on the neutral station. Chaos erupted as alarms blared and plasma fire streaked across the void. Aelyra's guards rushed her toward the escape shuttles. Protocol demanded she leave first, her safety above all else. Yet as they moved, a blast tore through the corridor, scattering debris and flame. Aelyra was thrown to the ground, her ears ringing, her vision blurred. Through the smoke she saw movement. The guards were down, some unconscious, others scrambling. And then Ethan. He had no armor, no psionic shield, no training in defending alien royalty. Yet he fought through the chaos, dragging her to her feet, shielding her body with his own as more explosions shook the station. "Stay with me," he shouted over the roar. Aelyra's psionic gifts flared instinctively, wrapping them both in a protective barrier. But she knew the truth. Without Ethan pulling her through those burning halls, she would not have made it to safety. When they finally reached the shuttle, smoke streaking his uniform, blood on his arm, he looked at her with those steady human eyes. "You're alive. That's what matters." No suitor, no general, no alien king had ever looked at her with such raw relief. Relief not for what she represented, but simply because she existed. The choice everyone feared. The attack was repelled. Talks resumed. But everything had changed. The galaxy buzzed with rumor. The human officer who had saved the Varith princess. Whispers twisted into speculation. Had she taken a liking to him? Would she reward him? Would she dare defy centuries of political expectation? Her court warned her sternly. To even entertain the thought of choosing Ethan was unthinkable. He was human, of a minor civilization, unfit for the bonds of galactic royalty. Aligning with him would weaken her standing, embolden rivals, perhaps even fracture the Dominion itself. But Aelyra could not silence the echo of his voice in the smoke. "Stay with me." One evening, beneath the crystalline domes of the neutral station's arboretum, she approached him. Stars glimmered beyond the transparent canopy, casting silver light upon the garden. "Do you know what they say of me, Ethan?" she asked softly. "That you're the most wanted person in the galaxy," he replied with a faint smile. "And do you know what I want?" Her voice trembled, not from weakness, but from the weight of truth she had never spoken aloud. He hesitated, searching her gaze. "What? You?" The words left her lips like fire finally released from its prison. For once, she was not a princess, not a political prize. She was a woman confessing her heart. The fallout. News spread like wildfire. The Varith princess had rejected alliances of power, had dismissed the wealth of dynasties, had turned her back on empires. She had chosen a human. The galaxy roared with outrage and disbelief. Some laughed at the absurdity. Others fumed with betrayal. Rivals saw opportunity. Allies saw weakness. Assassins were sent. Propaganda was spread. Whole factions demanded her abdication. And yet Aelyra did not waver. She stood before her people, her suitors, her enemies, and declared, "Everyone wants me for what I represent. But I will not be bartered like spoils of war. I have chosen, not a king, not a general, not a warlord. I have chosen the one who saw me not as a prize, but as a person. You may rage. You may threaten. But I am not yours to possess." Her words sent shockwaves across the stars. Some condemned her as reckless. Others, secretly yearning for freedom from tradition, admired her courage. And Ethan, quiet, steadfast Ethan, stood at her side, overwhelmed by the storm yet unwilling to let her face it alone. The war of hearts. Choosing Ethan did not end the struggle. If anything, it marked the beginning of a new one. Factions plotted to use him against her. Enemies saw in him a weakness to exploit. Even within her court, voices whispered of replacing her with a more compliant heir. But Aelyra was no fragile jewel. She was Varithan royalty, trained in both psionics and statecraft. And now, fueled by a love she had never known, she became fiercer than ever.